Overwatch has a fair share of maps, and we all know there are some real stinkers in there. I have talked a lot about maps before, I've ranked them more, I've ranked the game modes, I've ranked maps within game modes, but today I want to talk about 5 of my least favorite, and in my opinion, the worst designed maps in Overwatch. I have some spicy takes in here, so you're going to want to see what those are like. Without further ado, let's jump in. Kicking off with probably the spiciest one on here is Oasis. I don't really know what the general consensus is, but Oasis seems to get voted for quite a bit in my game, so I guess people like it a little bit. I don't hate this map. Like, I personally don't think it's that terrible, and it is beneficial to a lot of the characters that I play, but I think objectively, if we try to look at a map objectively, the actual design of this map is not great. I personally think University stands out the most to me. That's the really tight corridor one. I think that one is quite egregious with such a lack of variety of what you're able to do, a lack of places to play, and there's also just a very bland looking map. Most of the maps in Overwatch are very beautiful, so even if the gameplay sucks, at least it looks nice around you. I just think Oasis University does not have that. And specifically with that point, University, the walk from spawn is awful. Something that I always think about is that walk back is so open. It's stupid. It's almost like actually a complete oversight of how open that space is trying to walk back. I think the best one is probably City Center. City Center is a little more fluid, a little more variety going on. You've got the high ground, you've got the far right bit with all the cars. I mean, depending on which part you're coming from, which has a bit of a layered room going on, and the point's a little more open with a little less open with that nice little bit of cover in that room. There's a little more going on there, and walking back from spawn feels a lot better. It's exposed for the defenders, so it gives some of that room for the attackers to make a move, which does make it feel a lot more even. Gardens, however, I don't think is great. I mean, everything is a bit too far, in my opinion. Sometimes you get on an angle, and it feels like it should be a good angle, but it's just a little bit too far. Not my favorite, but Oasis, in my opinion, is unfortunately one of the weaker designed maps in this game. I wanted to throw it in here just because I thought it was a bit spicy, but I mean, maybe there's a worse one here. I'll make a part 2 in that case. Moving on. This is a map I think everyone hates. Parisio, Parisio, however you say it. I'm not Brazilian, unfortunately. No one likes this map. I mean, no one, like, genuinely, I don't think anyone actually likes this map. Even when people vote for it, I think they're voting for it, like, literally as a joke. Everything feels uncomfortable. Like, not a single part of this map feels okay to play on. Even on the attack, the defense, every role, every sub role, you know, you could be a ranged DPS, melee DPS, it doesn't matter. It feels uncomfortable. First point is not even real. I think it's because this map was originally meant to be a PvE only map. And obviously the start of Overwatch 2 was very, very rough. And I think they just threw this in here because they were like, we need content and we have nothing. So here's the PvE map. Because first point especially, compared to the other two, doesn't even feel like an Overwatch map, like it was designed to be in Overwatch. It doesn't make any sense. There's not even like a choke, which, not that I'm a massive choke guy, but you need to have some sort of tight space that people move around, and corners that get, you know, alternated between. That first point, once you're even past the high ground bit, is so open. That would never happen in an Overwatch map normally. It doesn't even make sense. It's so open for no reason. The entire high ground can see down onto the point, but even then the high ground has no cover, so it doesn't even feel that good to be on the high ground or on the floor. Really weird map. Second point, I think, is fun if you play a character like Pharah or even Tracer. It's a little fun to go around there, but it's so weird. There are so many weird design choices. So if you're attacking second point, on the far right, there is just a path that leads to nothing. It doesn't go all the way through. It's just a dead end path. So very weird design choices on this map. I'm a bit crazy for this. This map, it feels frustrating to play into dive comps and sniper comps, and that's not normally possible. Normally a map is dive heavy or sniper heavy. Well, that's my middle finger. Somehow this map's doing both. I don't know how that's possible. I literally don't know how that's possible. It feels like I'm getting, you know, shit on by a Widow miles away, but if I was that Widow, I'd be getting shit on by a Diva. So I really cannot figure out what this map is benefiting, and that's actually not a good thing. People want comp variety, and you want some comp variety, but the fact that both feel equally playable isn't actually a good sign. That just means the map doesn't make any sense and kind of anything goes. So maybe you like that, but objectively that's not very great. I don't think anyone would disagree with this map, so let's move on to my next pick. This is another possible hot take. I mean, I doubt it. Basan is not the greatest. I'm going to use this term quite a lot, but there's a lack of options. I say that there's a lack of options, lack of variety, because that is a real thing. Having choices, having decisions to make, having different ways to approach things, to approach a problem is very important in just game design generally. You don't want there to be only one way of doing something, or there only being one path you can take or one path that works. You kind of want there to be a little more variety going on. And I feel Basan just, some of the options on this map are just not that accessible or usable to most of the cast of characters. It's either too narrow or there's too much width to the map, depending on what point you're on. Mecha base especially is super congested when you're trying to break out of that choke, but then as soon as you're out and you're by the point, you have this really exposed and really far high ground, which is really oppressive and feels like you don't have much to do into that, but at the same time there was this really tight choke, so you're kind of just dealing with two extreme opposites all at the same time. Some games can be really, really volatile. You can get just absolutely full held on some of these points just because of the way they're designed. Like, yeah, there's always some skill issue there, but a lot of the time the design is just hurting the experience and making you get spawn out or making you have a harder time breaking through or being unintuitive. If you're at a lower rank, how are you expected to figure it out, or how is your team expected to figure out how to break through these chokes? And when you look at something like the should have my research. The really open one, the one with the little bell in the middle of the point. I forgot what that one's called. And you get something like that, and it's the complete opposite of Mecha Base. Super, super, super far. Everything is way too far away from each other, and it's so hard for some people to understand how you should play this map. Quite a lot of the time, the fight wants to take place in the more congested area to the side, and if you try to fight on point, it just sucks. I really do think this map just struggles on a lot of design fronts. Anyway, moving on. This map's definitely gotten better. It's definitely gotten better, but I still am not a fan. I know some people are way, way more of a fan, but I'm not on board. I'm not fully on board. Numbani. I've always hated this map. I always hate this map, and so maybe some of the reworks they've done have been better, and I'm just being biased and living in the past. But I really just dislike extreme high ground. I'm not a person that enjoys really big vertical thing, and this is my list, and so I'm going to do that. I don't love the big verticality. It's not my favorite. It really isn't. I much prefer having side rooms and more breadth and more just little flank routes and nooks and crannies than I do just straight height. And Nabani has an extreme case of high ground. There's a lot of height on this map. Also, some of the side routes and flanks can feel very long-winded, or can feel there's not enough reason to take them over just standing down main. There's a lot of rooms that just don't feel that good. Especially on second, it can feel like it's too far sometimes to take a lot of these flanks. To flank up onto high ground can be just too far for the attackers. To flank all the way around on that, like, if you're attacking on the left where there's that health pack around the statue, can be, again, it can be really far for most characters unless you are Tracer. So most people just don't do it. They just kind of just stand and pressure from main. And I really don't like maps that seem to encourage or be easy to just sit in main and do pressure from there. I like maps that encourage some creativity, some movement between different places, side rooms. Taking fights in these side rooms is really, really cool. But that just doesn't seem to happen on Nabani. Nabani feels very linear. It feels like a very linear, straightforward map with quite abusive high ground. And I'm just not a fan of that. It can probably be some people's very map if they're, they played like Ana, Zen, Ashe, Widow, Sigma, Arista, like a lot of these pokier characters you might really, really enjoy. And even Tracer might be fine on this map just because you can actually use a lot of those long-winded flanks. But for me, I find this map quite rough. Circuit is a map I have made an entire long video on because Circuit deserves it. It is probably my least favorite map in the entire game. This map fails ridiculously just everywhere. It's just a complete failure of a map in my humble opinion. You've got long sight lines, so that means you've got Widow, Hanzo, Ashe, Soja, Dominance, just people just sniping down these angles, and you've got not really any ways of dealing with it other than just sniping them back, and that's quite boring. Very, very straight. Especially that first point, that first section of the first point is just this straight line, and it can be absolutely horrendous to play. There's a lack of flank routes and a lack of meaningful flank routes. They tried in the rework to add these rooms, but the rooms don't link anywhere. They just added rooms. I want my rooms to connect. I want my rooms to become lanes. Why are my rooms just side rooms? But they added on first point, like straight in front of the payload, there's like a little hotel-y room thing with a window, and no one can use that. Like, even the most mobile characters and the best characters cannot use that spot because it doesn't do anything. It doesn't go anywhere. And they added the height onto the right side as the mini, but the room doesn't link back round, so it's not even a lane. It's just a small room with a mini. The extra part made no difference. And then some of the flanks on second point are so far away, and by the time you followed the whole flank, you just come back onto main. So what was even the point in having that part of the map? There's just wasted space there, and that space is being occupied by a Widowmaker sniping an entire team. So they didn't even fix the problem. They actually made the problem worse by trying to include these flank routes. Because they didn't make the flanks meaningful or lead anywhere, they basically just created new spots for snipers to play in. So I don't really understand. I don't understand why they can't, you know, just make this map a little more nice for people to play on. There's very little team comp variety. I know I mentioned earlier how too much can be annoying, but I don't mean to extremes. I mean the fact that things feel way more abused here. Like, Widows are way stronger, Sigmas are way stronger, Domina's way stronger. These characters are at too much of an extreme. What you want is, say you've got a map where, you know, Tifa's probably the better pick here, but you could get away with the Rhine because you can use this part of the map, and if you play with this, there is a way to make it work. That is so much better. Think about like a Flashpoint, like Suravasa, Ball, Diva. You know, these characters are going to be great on this map, but you can play Rhine, you can play Queen. Like, it's not abused, you just have to play it slightly different to the other characters, and that is what makes a good map. Saka does not have that. It is extremely unfun to play for literally half the roster. I hate this map personally because my hero pool at the moment is Brigitte and Lucio. So this map has a personal thing where it just messes me up. I can't play this map. I have to play like flex to, you know, Ana, Zen, Yari, because I just cannot play my two characters. So there's a bit of a personal hatred there, but like, trying to think more objectively, this map is still extremely flawed. Anyway, let me know some of your most hated maps. There are quite a few I missed off there. I do think there are still room for another possible 10 other maps to be on this list. And so let me know which ones you think deserve to be on the list, if you actually make a part 2. And again, if you love these maps and you enjoy these maps, that is completely okay. Different hero pools, different hero mains, different ranks will find different maps fun. And I'm not even saying that some of these maps are unfun. In fact, I can find an Oasis game fun. I can even find a Circuit game fun if I'm messing about on Widowmaker. Right, I was trying to just think more in the design space, which of these maps are well designed. Thanks for watching. Peace out.